Hey guys, welcome back for another lecture, POLSC 2303. I'm your Professor Wes Jameson. I am here to first apologize. Through a mistake in the syllabus, it looks like we were going to do a lecture and a test this week. Well, that just cannot happen. So, what I've decided to do is give you the lecture, which you will see here in the next minute or so. And I will not force you guys to write an essay for this week. Instead, I will give everybody a free 100 on essay 6 as long as you guys study for the exam that will be posted to Moodle on Wednesday, October 18th at around 5 p.m. is when it'll open. I will close it, since this is kind of a weird scheduling issue, I will close it on Monday at midnight, okay? So, you will have about an hour and 15 minutes to make sure that you guys get every single question done. Again, there will probably be around 33 questions. 10 of them will be essay, just like last time, and the other 23 will be multiple choice. So I hope that you guys can really use the information that I'm fixing to give you, because it will be on the test. Make sure you study hard. The items on the test will be listed on the review. A couple things you guys should know. Have the book open in front of you. It will be chapters 4 and 7, as well as every PowerPoint that I have up on Moodle since exam 1, which will be Why War, Domestic Politics and War, and finally, Civil War and Terrorism. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I want you guys to study really hard. Remember that the test opens up on Wednesday and closes next Monday on October 23rd. All right, without further ado, let's get started with Civil War and Terrorism. All right, Civil War and Terrorism. Okay, so we're going to be talking about, first we're going to define it, what Civil War is, and then we're going to talk about some of the common causes. One thing I want you to keep in mind as we go through these common causes is there's often a lot of overlap between countries. So you might see one country share two of these common causes, where you might see another country only have one of these causes, okay? So the first thing we should talk about is the fact that civil war is a lot more prevalent in the international community compared to interstate wars. As a matter of fact, in the last 30 years, we've seen a rather large drop-off in interstate war, while in the last 30 years, we've seen kind of an increase in civil war. All right, so the first thing we need to do is define it, all right? The definition of civil war is simply a war between citizens of the same country. We are talking brother versus brother, family versus family, and there are several different reasons why this happens. The first one we're going to talk about is resource imbalance. So when a country has natural resources, it's very difficult to distribute the wealth of these resources. And if one region receives an unbalanced share of the wealth due to these natural resources, you're very often going to see conflict. Okay, this can be highlighted by Sudan versus South Sudan. Okay, prior to 2005, this was one country; it was Sudan. But in the north, there's a desert. It is the Sahara Desert. Very little grows there, and so the north of Sudan really looked to the southern half of the state to provide income. Now, the South Sudanese became very tired of this, right? And not only that, there became a lot of ethnic differences between them. There were a little ethnic differences between them. You may have heard of Darfur and the genocide of Darfur. Well, the USA decided to back South Sudan, and in 2005, we have our newest nation. Okay, so next we have separatism and irredentism. Okay, first let's define what a separatist is. A separatist is a group that seeks an independent state carved from the existing state. Okay, so one example of this is the Kurds in Iraq. They want to form their own country called Kurdistan. Now, they recently had a vote in Iraq claiming independence in northern Iraq, but as this map shows, the Kurds occupy a large swath of land covering many different countries. And if they were to ever want to solely have their own state, they would have to have a vote in Turkey, Armenia, Iran, Syria. Next, we have the irredentists, okay? This is groups that want to detach from a region of a country and attach it to another part. Now, the best example of this is Crimea, right, in Ukraine. So recently, as early as 2014, Crimea had its referendum vote where Russia was trying to get Crimea to join their country and annex them. The vote ended up to be dramatic in that those who chose to join Russia was at 96.7%, and those that wanted to stay with Ukraine were 2.51%. Now, keep in mind, this information is from Russia Times, so we have to wonder, what is the actual vote like? Right, moving on to revolution. Revolution is one of those reasons that we have been through ourselves as the United States. It is essentially the forcible overthrow of the government or social order in favor of a new system. We also call this a coup. Most notably, we've seen this recently in the Arab Spring, where we saw Hosni Mubarak of Egypt completely overthrown after days and days and days of sit-ins in the square and by the people and the military, and in the end, Hosni Mubarak ended up dying. We also saw this in Libya a few years back as well, when Muammar Gaddafi also was thrown out and subsequently murdered by his own people. So next we have Proxy War. Now, Proxy War is a very interesting type of civil war, and it is because there are larger nations involved. So civil wars can be the result of two countries trying to avoid direct combat, right? So instead, they use another country's struggles to serve their own interests. Now, a perfect example of this would be the Korean War. After World War II in the 50s, we saw Russia make a move for the Korean Peninsula. They occupied the north. Well, they were trying to push communism into the peninsula because the United States had Japan all to ourselves. So what we did was we were trying to make a push for democracy, so we decided to occupy the south of Korea. Now, when we occupied the south of Korea, this started this proxy war of north versus south. And what ended up happening is they split along the 38th parallel. Now, it's very interesting to note that this civil war ended in armistice, right? Which means a ceasefire, which means they are technically still at war, which we see today with the actions of Kim Jong-un. All right, lastly, we need to talk about organized crime and terrorism. Okay, so often when cartel organizations start to vie for power over the government, some countries see wide-scale violence and battles in the street. We can often associate this kind of violence and civil violence with Mexico. So as the carteles are trying to take control of the small cities in which they sell their drugs, the federal government is also trying to vie for the exact same power. They're doing their best to try to control the flow of drugs and therefore the flow of money through their country. But if we see the interests that are involved here, we see China, we see Nicaragua, we see Colombia, Venezuela. These drugs are flowing from these countries through the conduit of Mexico, through the carteles, and the federal government is trying to wrestle this control from them. What we see then is civil warfare, civil violence. So, terrorism definition: use of violence against civilians, actions taken by a group that is not connected to the state. All right, and if we can see, it's been pretty steady throughout history of terrorist violence, except for the fatalities, of course, of 9/11 was a huge spike. So, are terrorists rational? Well, they do have strategic rationale, and they do have goals. So they are able to rank and order their preferences, although they are extremists, and they are also politically weak relative to the demands they make. They have no real power politically to be able to turn these policy shifts, right? All they can do is essentially scare people into trying to make these shifts. One of the strategies is coercion, right? This is what I mean by trying to scare people. It induces policy change by imposing costs on the target. You do this or we'll blow you up. Secondly, you have provocation. They're attacking to provoke a response from the government. If they can get the government to respond, then they have power within the government, and that in and of itself is extremely, extremely powerful. Another strategy they will take is spoiling, right? So we saw this with the World Trade Organization in Seattle a few years back. So the World Trade Organization was making a big deal about trying to get these trade laws to be equalized, and what we saw domestic domestic terrorists try to take over the scene and try to spoil the party for the WTO. Lastly, we have outbidding, all right? And this is what we see a lot of today because we have a competitive dynamic between our terrorist organizations. There's only so many youths that can be turned. So when we see Al Qaeda producing YouTube clips, and we see Islamic State producing YouTube clips, and then we see Boko Haram using YouTube clips, they're all vying for the same recruits, okay? Counterterrorism strategies, all right? There's very few that actually work. Preemption, the use of drones, that usually doesn't work too well. It actually ends up worse for us. Defensive measures, fortifying our embassies, also not really an effective strategy. Criminalization of terrorism is a reactive strategy and thus not an effective strategy. Also, negotiation and compromise, it is very rare that this actually works. So, essentially, we have to ask ourselves, how do we stop terrorism? We are fighting ideologies, right? And these ideologies can be powerful and they can be embedded in the civil society of a state, right? Not unlike what we see with Mexico and the cartels that are involved in their country. Okay, so again, there is no essay this week, all right? Due to a scheduling mishap, everybody gets a 4 for their essay 6. Yay! And then, but I really want you guys to study, especially for this. I want you to study this lecture as well as the previous 2 lectures, and you will need to look at chapter 4 and chapter 7 in your book. Again, keep it open, study hard, find a place where you're not going to be bothered, and make sure you have a good internet connection. And I hope you guys do very, very well in the test. Thanks.